Well, welcome to Ticker Talk. This week's guest is the founder and CEO of Stake, Matt Leibowitz.
It's amazing being the dumbest person in the room. It's like actually the best thing because you just get dragged up to a new level.
He's a natural disruptor. Obviously has great story in terms of his background.
When you got the marks back in the 90s, you did what your marks told you. You didn't actually do what you really wanted to do.
Stake has really opened up the international equities market and growth stocks from the US to Australian investors.
So in 2017 we started to do something really simple, was making investing in US shares easier than Aussie shares.
Looking forward to hearing from him.
Welcome to Ticker Talk. It's great to have Matt Leibowitz, founder and CEO of Stake. Great to have you here, Matt.
Cheers. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, we'd love to have a chat about the whole Matt Leibowitz story.
Sure.
So maybe all stories start at the beginning.
Yep.
And I think yours is one of those great, interesting ones. Born in Perth, but obviously from South African family. Tell us about your early life and early days.
I was actually born in Cape Town. So
Okay.
I moved when I was 1. My mum was pregnant.
Okay.
I think she was like 8 months pregnant. I don't think legally she probably should have brought my brother over.
Yeah, okay.
That cooked, but I think it was pretty close. So we came over in August and he was born in September. So they probably wouldn't do that now. So I was actually born I've got a brother and sister. I'm the only of the siblings that were born in South Africa. So grew up in Perth, moved to Sydney when I was 18, had a great childhood in Perth, and I think I miss those old days when I look at how my kids are growing up now and just running around in Perth and being pretty free and easy.
Yeah.
And then my family actually moved over. My dad's 2 brothers had moved to Sydney from South Africa. Obviously a bit of change going on there, and they actually set up a business in Sydney, Tarakash, you may know it.
Yes.
Clothing company. And then my dad's father and his wife, my grandmother, moved to Sydney because most of the family was on the East Coast. And then my family joined them actually when I was in year 12. I have a bit of a running joke with my parents. Like, you sort of left me to do my final year at school. Like, one parent was swapping, and my grandmother was, on my mum's side, was still in Perth. So I had it was awesome. I loved it. I still got some great friends there. It was just a great time to grow up in Perth. Perth's an amazing place. Try to go back every year to watch some football, catch up with friends, and wouldn't change it for the world. But I'm here now. And
do you go back to South Africa much? Or do you feel African?
No, not at all. I mean, look, it's just I'm Australian. Like, I'm very, very proud to have grown up here and very lucky to have grown up here. And I go for the Wallabies, when they're playing South Africa.
Yes.
It's just something I'm actually interested in, obviously seeing all the change that's happened there. So I just keep an eye on things. It's more just out of intrigue, and obviously got some connection to it, but there's no real family there. I've got obviously a few family friends and just different generations that have been through there. But I went in 2001, when I was 21, sort of the first time I'd been back. And I went it with a mate, and we did the World Cup cricket. We drove around the whole country, little car, had no radio. It was amazing.
Yeah.
We went to, Australia won that World Cup. And then I went back in 2005, and then I think I've been back once since. So more just for holidays, beautiful. Going on safari and just seeing it in some of the most amazing cities and people in the world. But no real connection other than just having been born there.
Yeah. Before we started filming, we were talking about fitness and gym.
Yeah.
Perth is a crazy city, isn't it? Health, lifestyle.
Yeah.
Did that impact you at all? I mean, how do you? What was growing up in Perth like in terms of outdoors and lifestyle?
I just sport is everything there.
Yeah.
Growing up, you could play. You can get anywhere very quickly. It's very accessible. When I go back, it's a lifestyle city ultimately, and it's very easy. You can get to the beach. When I was there, and it's probably changed now, it's a lot bigger, but everything was 10 minutes away. You get to the beach in 10 minutes, the park in 10 minutes, the city in 10 minutes. I'm not quite sure now, obviously, having gone there recently, you can ride your bike around, but it's very laid back.
Yeah.
People are very into their sport. I'm a big Aussie rules fan, having played Australian rules football growing up and following the Eagles since their inception in '86. Still try to get back for games. People, and they're very supportive. They really get behind it, and the West Australian teams are like very successful because there's a real sense of camaraderie, and they represent essentially the state outside WA. So
and sport's very important to you. I mean, you're wearing
wearing my Nuggets
yet
top
another
now.
Codes shirt. Now, tell us about that.
Yeah.
I know we're jumping ahead now.
That's
a few
all right.
decades, but
So in 2001, I did exchange in Colorado, the University of Colorado, which is just outside.
And what were you studying at that point?
I did law and finance. I did a combined degree, and I did exchange. Actually, during the September 11th, I remember exactly where I was at the time, and the news was sort of filtering through. One of my best friends had also did exchange. He was actually down in Lower Manhattan, so that was a pretty scary time. But I was there over the 2001, that period from sort of August to January, I did a 6-month exchange and just fell in love with the state of Colorado, travelled around. I think I did like 2 days university restaurant on the ski fields when it was snowing. But I got to see my first NBA game. I grew up playing basketball, following the Wildcats in Perth. But I remember going to what's now Ball Arena, but the arena back then for the first NBA game was a Denver Nuggets game. So since then, I've been a mad supporter. All the way from, Nick Van Exel was playing, maybe some listeners remember him, all the way to following them now. So I've been through the ups and downs. They've been a lot better more recently, which has been fun to watch. And actually in 2023, I took my kids to the NBA Finals. So their first NBA game was Game 2 of the NBA Finals in Denver.
Yeah.
That's what you call a privileged upbringing, but what can we do? I wanted to go, so I had to take them. And that was an amazing experience. And then we went into Miami and saw another game. And the Nuggets ended up winning the championship in 2023. So it's a little bit of a secret, but sometimes at work I book out when the Nuggets are playing and I'll just go grab a room and watch a few minutes.
Yeah.
So,
and what's the EA say then? Oh, no, Matt's in a meeting.
Matt's that just looks like focus time on the calendar, But I try catch it and follow it, and it's like nearly a bit religious in our family. We talk about the trades, the injuries. It's a great thing to have with your kids and share it. And basketball's become far more accessible to watch, and you see the success of Australians over there. And I think that's one of the great things about the internet, the sharing of information and communication, and it makes it a lot easier to follow American sports, which is it's sort of entertainment master sport.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun, and it was a great time to be over there on exchange, but then also taking a lot from that time as well. And looking back, and I picked up the Nuggets as a team, which has been pretty good recently.
And what is the Nuggets? I don't follow American basketball, forgive me, but so what's the Nuggets? They're not a little chicken thing with on the outside. What are the Nuggets?
Colorado's a massive gold.
Oh, okay. So it's a reference.
So it's
a
very
reference.
ESG friendly, Matthew.
Yeah.
So they are golden on the outside, but in a more substantial sense.
So I think the guy's carrying a pickaxe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting back to Australian studies, so you were studying law at Sydney?
UNSW.
UNSW, okay. And that led you to Allen's?
Yeah, I did. I was a paralegal for a while, and then I was a lawyer there. I was a lawyer for 3.5 years, 5 years in total at Allen's. Awesome.
Yes.
Great people, learned a lot. The best training I had, actually, professionally, and learnt to write and work with people. And, it was hard work. You're starting at the very bottom and you're just learning a lot. And, I thank them a lot. And I've got a very big place in my heart for Allen's because I think it really set me up to do a lot more afterwards.
It's a pretty extraordinary law firm. I was in their offices recently, and they've got the original desk from the Allen partner, and there's companies like Westpac that have been there. They've been the customer for like 100 years or something. Did some of that history, is that rubbed through?
I worked on some Westpac stuff. I was in banking and finance for the majority of my time as a lawyer. It's like a very esteemed place and really great people, and I've got still friends that work there now. One of the guys in my grad group is a partner there, Tim. It's just history and legacy they carry you, and sometimes you've got to remember where you came from to get to where you are, and you felt that when you walked in Allen's. So it's great.
You're painting a very good picture about a career in law, but you've said that you reached a point where you realised I'm a numbers man, I'm a maths man more than the law. What was the trigger for that?
Yeah, I think my maths got me into law school. It wasn't like a natural. I was just always interested in numbers growing up. I did 2 maths courses in studies in subjects in year 12, and they got me the mark I did, which got me into law. If it wasn't my maths, I wouldn't have got into law school. So I got to be that was where my leaning was. I don't, you guys are my age or thereabouts. You know what it was like in the 90s.
Generous.
I think I'm a bit younger.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm feeling it right now. Look, when you got the marks back in the 90s, you did what your marks told you. You didn't actually do what you really wanted to do. And I don't regret it. I absolutely loved it, and I learned a lot. And I don't think I ever really wanted to be a lawyer long term, but I got the marks. I actually really enjoyed studying law at uni, and I love the people at Allen's, so I worked there. But an opportunity to come up to work in the markets came up, and it sort of made sense at the time.
So what was that opportunity?
Yeah, so that was Optiva. So that was in 2007. I started there. So
but how did
in
that
Australia?
come up?
Sorry, man.
Yeah. Well, but how did that come up in the context of your working as a lawyer? Did they become a client or something, or you were just looking through as it would have been in those days, newspaper ads? Oh, that looks nice.
2007, Matthew. I think we moved on to Seek.
Was the Internet of Things around?
Yeah, it was back then.
Yeah. It'll never catch on.
I know.
No, it'll never catch on.
No, it didn't. It was one of those things where people were just talking, and I knew I had an opportunity to try something. So I remember it was a maths test at the time, and I turned up in a suit and a tie because I was at Allen's.
Yeah.
And there were people rolling around in like board shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm well overdressed. And you can't take off your shirt.
You've been to Max's workplace, have you?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the steak office too.
Yes.
So, I just did the maths test, and it was like, I just actually loved being in there, trying to solve those numbers, quick maths, and it just felt vibrant and energetic. And I guess, as they say, the rest is history. I did the test, I got through. I actually interviewed at the beginning of 2007 and got started in August. And between that, I actually ran a charity, which was pretty cool. So that was a really interesting time in my life where I got a bit of time off. You don't get that very often. I'll probably talk about other time off I had. But so I got the job, but I could only start in August. So I just spent the 6 months in between doing something a little bit different. But after that, my journey in Optiva was 10 years. I was there till 2017, and it was amazing. Absolutely loved it. And it also has a very dear place because I learned a lot, met some great people. Some of my best friends, both from Allen's and Optiva, but the energy and excitement of that time at Optiva was contagious.
Now, Optiva is a powerhouse and very elite. I mean, people know the name Goldman and firms like that, but Optiva is another level altogether, isn't it? And not a household name. So do you want to tell us a little bit about who they are, what they do, and what you learnt there?
Yeah, so Optiva is a market maker. It provides liquidity to listed markets. So they were an options trader. That's what they started. So if you're trading options, and options, unfortunately, in Australia have gone in the opposite direction, but in the US and Europe and Asia, they've sort of a little bit different story there. So you need people. There's so many different options. There's multiple strikes, there's durations, there's different expiries, there's different instruments. So you need someone to be able to price those so people can actually trade it. Like you may want to trade BHP call that expires in September. Max may want to sell the June one, for example. Like who's going to price that if you guys aren't connected? So Optiva sort of stands in the middle and prices the two. There's a few market makers out there. Optiva's a very strong one. Historically, they've got a really good ethos about making the market better. So coming in and actually providing that liquidity so the markets, there is transparency, there is liquidity. People can execute trades, de-risk, take on risk. And it's very, it's really smart people. It's amazing to be the dumbest person in an office or in a room. It's like actually the best thing because you just get dragged up to a new level. And I was lucky enough to be one of those people that got dragged up. And I just learned a lot. Like you get thrown in the deep end pretty quick. There's a sort of 6-week training program. Options are like a language.
Yeah.
And I just from then on, I got to travel, got to obviously go live in Chicago.
Yeah, well, the home of derivatives markets. Yeah.
So Chicago was the middle of the transport in terms of agriculture and was moving across the country. Obviously, West Coast, East Coast, Chicago was sort of on that line, and it became the Chicago Merc, futures and options and CBOE, and it was just like a mecca for options. And just being there and that energy and that understanding, and it's what people talk about at the gym, in the cab. Like everyone had a sense of like the markets were dynamic and everyone was a part of it. And the stories of people, that didn't have university degrees, but their dad worked as a chalkie. They'd come up and put prices on. People with history degrees or psychology degrees, or people that were really mathsy. And it was also, it was a true marketplace.
Yeah.
I just fell in love with it.
It was the business of the town, wasn't it? I remember when I was working at the Futures Exchange, went to Chicago for a tour of their markets. Yeah. And this was just the beginnings of electronic trading. And I'm looking around at these vast trading floors at the Board of Trade in particular and thinking, if these floors close and they go electronic, this city disappears. Yeah. And there were generation after generation after generation of the same family members working at CBO or the Board of Trade. An extraordinary place, dynamic.
Yeah,
energetic.
It was dynamic. Yeah, and it's a great city. I mean, those exchanges are like airport hangars.
Yeah,
they're absolutely mad. You walk in there, as you say, they're vast, and I was there when it was starting to go a lot more electronic, so you could sort of see it slowly dying out, and you were hearing stories and the complaints coming from the old floor brokers and floor traders, and it was an awesome time to be there. And me and my wife had just got married, and we moved over, and just to be thrown into the deep end, taking on the world together as a couple, and it was a really good time to be there. And as I said, I try to get back to Chicago. Still got great relationships and friendships there, and it was just an awesome time.
And home of one of the great trading movies of all time, Trading Places.
Yeah. And
frozen orange juice futures. I think.
That was It is as you say, it's built into the DNA of the business. A lot of the trading firms are still there historically, and the talent goes there. And you obviously got the University of Chicago, which is known for Scholes and Merton, who priced options up their model.
They're the freshwater, one of the freshwater universities as opposed to the saltwater.
Yeah.
There's that monetarist, Keynesian divide. Yes.
And you feel it there. Of water, it's a cold place.
Yes, it is a cold place.
Very similar to Perth, sure.
Yeah, beautiful. It's you see all the seasons, and it really teaches you about resilience. It's a very resilient city.
Yeah. And did you get into skiing there?
There's not much skiing actually around.
Already it's only half an hour.
We don't all get to
North America.
We don't get to go to Austria when we want, skiing, or have someone in Whistler. Someone in Whistler who can look after you. But I actually probably skied more when I was in Colorado.
Okay,
we did a few little trips, but my wife's not a massive skier. She likes it, and also you have to travel outside. Really, you can go to Wisconsin, but that's a hill. Illinois is pretty flat.
Full of lakes.
Yeah.
Well, at least one big one.
Yeah, a very big one.
So after Chicago, after Optiva?
Came back here in 2012. End of 2012, had our first child in Sydney. We were pregnant, Jane was pregnant. And we came back to Sydney, had our first child here, and went back to Optiva. I was there till 2017, and ran the equities team here. I ran the index team in Chicago, which is great. I got to see, the VIX, the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, and how actually insignificant it is as an exchange. A lot of people think the Dow Jones is the exchange. It's actually the least relevant out of all of them. But that's quite a technical one. And then I came back to Sydney and just set up home here. And so I've been here back since then and travelled a bit and got to travel a bit more, but nothing like living overseas in Chicago.
This episode of Ticker Talk is brought to you by the National Stock Exchange of Australia, the leading exchange for startups and scale-ups. Follow NSX on LinkedIn for market updates, news and events.
Well, welcome back. Thanks again, Matt. Now, second half. I think we ended as you were in Chicago or coming home from Chicago. You were working for Optiva. You've realised you're a maths and a numbers man and trading and financial markets more than law. So we wanted to explore now stake, your move into stake. And there was a quote I liked you gave in an interview somewhere where you said you were a partner at Optiva. You were at the sophisticated end of the market, but you didn't have a place to send people, your friends, your brother, I think you quoted, who wanted to invest in the Netflixes and the Apples and the Facebooks and the Googles. It was a really big gap. So what had you identified, and was that the trigger for the creation of stake? What was the idea you saw there?
Yeah, so it goes actually back to my time in Chicago, just that sort of energy and culture around the markets. And, at Optiva, we were essentially, the exchanges, as you guys would know, would encourage people to trade on the exchange, so they provide incentives. And when I came back to Australia back in 2012, and during that time, obviously, Facebook listed when I was in the US, Netflix had just listed right before I got there. And you saw their meteoric rise and how they were sort of changing categories. And Americans would jump on board and be part of that growth. Australia was very property focused, but you could sort of see the next generation being like, how do we participate in products we're using or in themes that are really changing the categories or changing the world? And people would ask me at Optiva, like, where do I go to invest in US shares? And, if you're not, as I said, we were plugging stuff into exchanges at the time. I really knew how things worked at a very, I guess at an enterprise level, a very deep level. But people that just wanted to buy stock, it was totally broken. Like I'm talking, the way I describe it is like a novelty to buy US shares. You had to pay, nearly like 15 to 20% brokerage to buy $500 to $1,000 worth of shares, and to set up a W-8 Ben form, which is a US tax form, to actually open an account. The experience was just broken end to end. It was like, the way I describe it was like full of forms, fees, and complexity. And it was just, and I was like, how can we be getting at Optiva or in institutions getting paid to trade, and basically paying zero, actually getting a positive, and then customers here can't even buy a US stock. I mean, the US stock represents, it's a large percentage of the market. Aussie is around 2% in terms of traded volume. It just made no sense to me. So I'm really, just because you live in Australia, why should you be cut out from what's happening elsewhere in the world? So that was really the mission about opening up opportunities to Australian investors. And it became just one of those things that just got stuck in your head and you couldn't let go until you'd actually given it a go. I'd probably thought about it for 2 or 3 years. I'm like, I keep seeing it. I was traveling at the time into Asia, whether it be Hong Kong, Singapore, into Japan, speaking. Even institutional brokers were having trouble getting trades executed in the US. I'm like, there is a huge gap in this market. So in 2017, we started and launched later that year to do something really simple, was making investing in US shares easier than Aussie shares. And we focused us on literally getting people onboarded, signed up, making the money movement, making just an enjoyable experience. It celebrated their desire to actually do a little bit more with their money. And it sort of took off from there. You don't know where it's going to go. It was obviously like that was the infancy of it. That was the acorn of the idea, and obviously we've kept trucking and putting one foot in front of the other, and we are now. But yeah, really at a very simple level, as Australians deserve the same opportunities as everyone else, and that is just the backbone to what Stake is about.
And how much of Stake's customer turnover is in US stocks versus Aussie stocks?
I think right now it's about a little bit more in the US, but it's growing in Australia because we launched Aussie equities 3.5-4 years ago now.
Okay. Just getting back again to the Optiva history and options, and you contrasted with Australia where we've seen a massive contraction really in that options market. How much of that is investor consumer and how much of that is regulatory?
I don't know if it's regulatory. I think it's just focus from market participants. I don't know enough about the regulatory. I remember in 2014, I came back and I had to make the decision that the Aussie market, options market, was declining. I think it was around 30% year on year. It could have been 25, but thereabouts.
Sounds right. I mean, that would be right, I think.
And liquidity was drying up. Other participants were leaving, and it's sort of like you're the last person at the disco. It's like it's at some point you just got to move on. And I think it's a real shame because you need to really, I'm a firm believer in that you can add value to the ecosystem, and if the ecosystem's better, it actually powers the whole economy. So if you think about it, if you're a lender, for example, and you want to lend to a company, you want a comparable on the exchange to get a sense of like what it's worth in terms of what's your security. And when you start to see liquidity dry up in a market and you start to see spreads widening in any sense, even in the stock market, risk becomes a lot harder to price and to get engaged with. And also if you're a venture firm or you're an early stage investor, you want to look for an exit. And if there's no liquidity on a listed market, you're forwarding out your investment and be like, there may be no exit into a listed market. We're relying on only one participant, i.e. a takeout from another participant or someone else to buy our stock. That whole opportunity to go listed becomes very, very difficult. And I just think we're missing a bit of a trick in Australia, to be perfectly honest, with liquidity and transparency. And if we do focus on the options market, and I may be ranting on a little bit here, but I'm really passionate about it, is if we provide liquidity to the exchange, all parts of the ecosystem get better. And the best financial markets have very, very strong liquid capital markets. And the listed market is the public market. People see it. It is transparent. And if we are strong and we actually care about that, we'll be doing a lot more in Australia to actually bring liquidity to the lit market. The lit market is an industry term for the listed and seen market. And people just have more trust in the ecosystem. And then everything else flows from there.
I mean, with the rise of ETFs, we've seen a massive gravitational shift in liquidity to the top 50, top 100. We've also seen a material drop-off in active fund managers as well, and the importance of proxy advisors. So how important do you think is some form of market-making liquidity provision into the Australian market, which is commonplace in Europe and in the United States and Canada? But less so or pretty absent in Australia and highly restrictive.
I mean, I think it's absolutely vital. Liquidity begets liquidity. And if it starts to dry out, liquidity disappears and then all sorts of issues happen. You start getting fragmented. I mean, the UK has not been a great example of how it's worked because they've not put the attention to creating liquidity and they've got stamp duty stuff and there's just like certain things that create issues. I just think the Australian market, the bellwether of the actual greater economy is actually the bottom half of the exchange. We're talking, and if there's a concentration, and the super funds, they have to obviously invest in the top names because the liquidity's there. What happened after, post-COVID is all the small fund managers got really hurt by the draining liquidity from the small caps, and they all left that category, and now there's no liquidity there. And if you're a small cap, you are the growth engine of our economy. And if there's no liquidity, you're not going to list as a small cap company. Growth companies just look at the local exchange and be like, is it really worth the effort? I get listed, but there's no liquidity. I can get what happens after I list. Where's my access to secondary capital? Lots of things happen if you don't have liquidity. So I'm just a massive proponent of actually driving liquidity. And yes, there will be winners from that, but I think the rising tide lifts all ships. And we've got to stop
with our superannuation scene. There should be.
We want to be backing small to medium enterprises, literally the backbone of our economy. And they actually require, if you look at the US, I really look at the Russell Index, which is the 2000, which is a much better, broader set of the economy. And Australia, it's ASX 300 pretty much. After that, the liquidity really drops off. Unless it's quite topical or it's very much traded. But there are ways to drive liquidity, and I think we need to explore that as an economy as a whole or as a market as a whole. And it's important for jobs in financial markets, but it's also important broadly more for the Australian financial system.
So what's your typical if there is such a thing, stake customer.
Yeah.
Are they trading options or not enough? But who are they? What's their demographic?
So I like to consider them active investors. They're ambitious. Okay. They may not be trading a lot. Some would be. Some. It's more their mindset about having to want to have a better place to be more savvy with their money. Like, it's hard to get by in Australia. 9 to 5 does not necessarily cut it, and people recognise the price of property's gone up. So, getting access to the property market is a bit further out of reach. So they're using the stock market or equities or similar products to try and grow their wealth, so they're better off in the future. They're generally around 33 years old, 32 and a half years old. Thereabouts. Young professionals in the city is the sort of prototype, but they could be 18, 81. It's more about their ambition and wanting to move forward. That's the way I look at them. We don't have options yet, but we see a lot of them asking for it, wanting to hedge their positions. They want to protect themselves when the market falls. So they're looking for those. They're looking for options, and options are one of those options. It's really important to them to just have more tools in their arsenal, because they know their money could be doing more for them, and they should be protecting it when they've created some, or they want to create it themselves, their wealth. So big opportunities there to just provide Australian investors with more tools so they can do more with their money.
Yeah. And I mean, would you say that's been one of the drivers of Stake as well, in terms of just helping with those tools and helping with education? And
I think I'm more focused on the access, because if you provide the access, people go and find the tools to teach them.
Okay.
There's no point teaching someone something if they don't actually have access to use it.
Yeah.
So I'm about, you provide the access first, and there's lots of literature, and YouTube's an amazing resource. Instagram, Money Smart on the ASIC website. There's just great tools out there, but if you don't have access, you're never going to go and do research on something you can't access. Yeah. It's like, I want to play a sport, but I don't have a ball and a ring. I can't play basketball. Well, you're not going to go learn basketball moves.
Yeah.
You need to start with what the actual access, and then the education follows. So I'm more about access, and then education follows.
There's a lovely simplicity in that. I mean, I've heard you talk about the fact that your business model, as it were, is to build the skateboard, not the car.
Yeah.
So don't add on all the bells and whistles. Yeah. Start off with simple that the customer really wants. Yeah. You should go into streaming services, for goodness sake, have everything on the one channel rather than having bits and pieces everywhere. So is that what you're talking about? That keeping it simple and giving the customers what they really want in essence?
Yeah, I mean, I think any person that builds a product, you just got to go to what is the proposition. What are you trying to solve for the customer? And our customers, when they first started, they just wanted access to US stocks. They just wanted it to be easier and simpler. So you build that. You don't build all the charts and the function. You need that as you go and as their sophistication grows. But you actually just start with the proposition of what you're trying to build. And this is just a lesson that I've learned over the journey. Like, had never run a business before. But if you actually just focus on what the core customer need is, you build from that. That is the core of any business you build. Like, what are we actually trying to solve for the customer? What is at the heart of the problem? And there's like demand just for that. Mm-hmm. And then there'll be demand for the rings you build around it. So it's sort of like stripping away the onion. And, I speak to a lot of parts of the team, and I sit with different parts of it, whether it be operational. It's like, what does the customer actually want here? Like, what is at the heart of it? And what they want from Stake is a better way to do what they're currently doing, or things that they didn't even think they could do because they just think they're too out of reach. Mm-hmm. So when we build options, it will be, obviously we'll pad it with education and all the stuff that you need to do, but it'll be a simple way for them to access that market and get exposure to it, and then we'll understand what are the extra things they need to get the most from it.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of building skateboards and customers, good opportunity to talk about merch.
Yes,
and I have to say, in terms of
talk about
brand identity,
Yeah.
I don't know another financial services firm in the world that's diversified into actually selling merch.
Yeah.
But you launched that this week, and I think you've sold everything. So tell us a little bit about the inspiration and the idea around the Stake retail store.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what Stake is and we go to the heart, it's like we are actually recognizing the ambition of our customers. Like, there is something about our customers that I'm just amazed by. They want to move forward. They're driven to do better. They're curious. And when we would do the merch for our staff, we'd have a bit of fun. We'd do the CEO series. We had a market cap before that was just for staff. We'd get customers reaching out and be like, I want to represent that same energy externally, and they've been asking for essentially a way to connect in. I'm not banking on it being like massive revenue driver, Max. It's more about, having people like you out there wearing and just feeling proud for the fact that it's okay to be ambitious. It's okay to want to do more.
Yes.
Because I truly believe that those are the people that just carry us all forward. And like, as I talk about the rising tide lifting all ships, you need people that actually want to put one foot in front of the other and take a little bit of risk. And that should be celebrated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for me, the merch is a bit of a celebration, a way to wear it on your sleeve, ultimately. So
it's good. So 2017, I think you said you started. So your 10th anniversary next year.
Yeah.
But you've also said, which I like, that you're thankful that you really didn't know how difficult the challenge was going to be. Yeah. And that's important. And we've had other guests that have said similar things that have started businesses. And they talk about there's a blissfulness in being naive about the challenge. Yeah. So that was your experience too, and that was very important for you, just doing it, just...
100%. If I'd known how hard it would be, you'd never do it, because you fought out all the problems you face. But if you actually just look at it, I've got a problem to solve, I'm driven by a mission. Life always throws obstacles, no matter what you're doing. It's not, obviously, everyone has them in life, and it's more just about, I can knock that one off one by one by one. But if you start to look at all of them, you just see a mountain of obstacles. So you actually just have to, you can't look too far ahead. You just got to be like, I've got to get to here. It's like running a marathon. You're just putting one foot in front of the other. So I was very happy I was naive, and I look back, I'm like, I can't believe we achieved what we've achieved given what we've had to go through, building a business is, I respect anybody that has started anything on their own. My experience before was I was obviously at Allen's, and so the work would come to me from the partners or the senior associates. Then I was at Optiva, and I was in front of a screen, and then when you just realize the world out there, what people are doing, turning up each day to open up a coffee shop, and like the barista doesn't turn up, the owner has to just step in and do it. You just actually admire the resilience that people have out there, and steak is just another one of those stories. It's no different than anything else. I'm just building anything is hard, and I think if anyone looks too far ahead, like there's too many things that are like unknowns, and you're going to stop there. So you just actually got to realize, I just got to start, and then I'll just get there, and you'll get through.
You've got to tell us, what was that quote that your father gave you? A little bit of advice that your dad gave you about being in business.
Yeah. So my dad had lots of quotes, and he some goes in one throughout the other, but one that really stuck. Sorry, Dad, he probably won't listen to this, so it's okay. He would always say, and I don't know where he got it from, but I tell it to my kids, that success only comes before work in the dictionary. You just have to do the work. Yep. There's no other way around, and that is in every aspect of life. If you want to play a sport, you want to build your relationships, you want to like your studies, building a business, just turning up each day. You actually just have to do the work, and the results will come. There's no shortcuts in life.
How do the children respond?
They probably in one ear out the other.
Have you got the TV controller, please? Get out of the way.
Exactly. What, Dad? So
Mom, he's doing it again.
He's just, it's just one of those things. And that really stuck with me. As I said, there were probably lots of things he threw at me, but that was one that just, I've seen it firsthand as I've sort of, gone through my career.
I like that. Prop time.
It's prop time.
It's prop time, Matt.
Prop time, cool.
Prop time. So we ask every guest to bring in a prop, something, it doesn't matter what, something of importance that has a story attached to it. So what have you brought in to share, please?
Well, I was going to
show and tell.
I was going to bring my bike. Is this here? So I talked about my time in Chicago, and so the day after we arrived on a Saturday afternoon in Chicago, and we were stuck getting in the cab from O'Hare. The traffic is just terrible. I'm like, where have I landed? I'd never been there before I came, but that afternoon we went and bought bikes, and we picked them up on the Sunday. So we arrived on a Saturday, picked them up on the Sunday, and we didn't have a car in Chicago for those 3.5 years. But one winter I decided to ride, and I've still got that bike, by the way. It's like, what's that now? 2009, so it's like nearly 17 years old, and I've still got it. I won't. It works. It's been refactored a few times. But one winter, I decided to ride my bike all the way through winter. We lived about 5 miles, which is 8 kilometers out of the city. And I decided one winter, I think it was the second winter, it wasn't the first winter that I was there, I'm going to ride my bike all the way through the winter. And we started early on the floor because the US market would open at New York time. So I really didn't envy the people in San Fran or LA that were on those markets, but New York opened, so I had to be at work at sort of 7-ish every morning, and I'd get up at 6 o'clock or just before, and I'd roll my bike up out of the apartment and down, and my wife would just be like, "You're a nutcase." But one winter I rode my bike all the way through winter. And so Chicago can get to -9, but then with the wind it can feel like -20, -25. And I was layered, I had balaclavas on, and it was just me and a few other crazy cyclists, and these are the gloves I wore. and they've obviously seen better days. But this is one of the things I don't think I'll ever let go. We went to Europe now with the kids, and I took them to Rome over the Christmas period. And
to get them blessed.
Yeah, exactly. I was blessed to have these. Trust me. Honestly, they're probably only probably buy them for a few bucks now, or no one would buy them. But I'll tell you the story because my son left them. He wanted to borrow them, wanted to go ice skating, so just walked down the road. There was an ice skating rink near where we stayed in Rome, and he left them next to the rink. And like the next day, we're looking for the gloves, and he's like, "I thought I brought them home," and I'm like, "Okay, maybe I just got to like remove the sentimentality from remove the sentimental aspect of this, and just like." Realize that these gloves are gone and my bike's the last remaining remnant, but because you don't obviously need to use these in Sydney, but they were still there next to the ice skating rink. I think if you
snuck back, did you? You snuck back?
No, it was like an outdoor ring and they're like a plaza. It was like, and so there were people around and we went there and they were just like, obviously overnight it got pretty wet and I don't think anyone would want to pick these up anyway, but they were still there. So they just don't die. But that whole period about riding through, about building resilience, trying stuff, just throwing yourself at a big, hairy challenge. It just like I always look back and be like, if I can do that, I can do anything. Right. It's not for the faint-hearted, but I wouldn't change it. I probably would do it again, a little bit like building a company, but it was a great period in my life, and I learned a lot from it.
And I'll bet those other one or two cyclists that you saw were Aussies as well.
Probably. Yeah. No, I'd get to work and I would be so layered and with like gear and like my ski shorts on and like balaclava and a hoodie and like earmuffs or whatever. I'd be so warm. I'd be in the office in board shorts and people are like, what's this guy doing? Yeah, what is this guy doing? But these are a good reminder of that, if you throw yourself at something big, you can do it.
Before we let you go, a few quick rapid-fire questions. Okay. If you could give your younger self one investing rule, what would it be?
Something I wish I learned earlier was to, and I think it really applies to life, is to really let your winners run and cut your losers. And it applies all over with relationships, with work.
It's a great call.
It's just something that you hold on hoping that things change, but actually you just need to like cut it and move on.
Yeah, hope is not a strategy.
No, hope leads to despair.
What would you be doing if you weren't in markets?
Probably looking for a job in markets, I think.
Okay. Great advice. What's the most surprising trend you've seen from retail investor behaviour in the last year?
Alternate assets, and I don't mean like alternate assets, I mean like trading gold or silver, just getting exposure to thematics that are a little bit more non-company specific, non-equity specific.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this one's a hard one.
Sure.
One word to describe the next phase of Stake.
You're wearing it on your shirt, ambitious.
Ambitious. Yeah. What a great way to end.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No,
Matt Leibowitz.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for your interest today and for your great story, and good luck with the future of Stake.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, that was fantastic hearing from Matt. As always, a great journey, great adventure. And in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to have Chris Barter from King River Capital. Global firm, probably the only firm based in Australia that's investing in digital assets. And he's got a great backstory from west coast of the US to Frankfurt with a little side trip to Moscow and ending up in Australia. Look forward to Chris Barter a fortnight from now.
Indeed. Thank you. Join us then.